He also serves as Director of California Local Elected Officials at the California Policy Center. We love Ms. Barkey in Orange County, and she's been respected by parents in Orange County. We are honored to have her here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Steele, and welcome, Ms. Barkey. We thank everybody for being here today and look forward to your testimony. Pursuant to committee rules, this is what it is. When you're in Congress, you get 5 minutes. And so we're going to ask you to limit your oral testimony to 5 minutes. Your written statement can be as long as you want. We have them already in our packet. And I want to remind everybody of your responsibility to provide accurate information to the committee. Now, I was just told that we may have to pause for just one moment. The feed to C-SPAN may be interrupted, and I'm waiting on a clear signal so that America can tune into our hearing today. So just stay right there and let me get the official word that we are good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed good to go. How about that like that? So that's it. And so the 5-minute rule is begun under Committee Rule 9, and I'll begin. We'll recognize Ms. Igoroff for her opening statement. Welcome. Glad to have you here. You're recognized. And speak right in there. Own that thing. Just put right into it.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to share my experience as a New York City public school parent, an immigrant, and a New Yorker who has seen the impact of the border crisis in our public schools and our city. I want to start with a quote from our mayor, Eric Adams. He said this in an interview 10 days ago. Quote, "I'm stuck with housing over 198,000 migrants and asylum seekers, over 38,000 children, all on taxpayers' dime. We spent over $4 billion per year, and we're still getting in a large number. Last week, we got in 1,100 migrants. We have been averaging 1,000 a week for the most part. That's over 4,000 migrants a month. That is a real strain on the city," quote. It really is a real strain on our city. The New York City Independent Budget Office now estimates that this crisis will cost $12.5 billion over the next 3 years. To put in perspective, this represents approximately 5% of the total budget of New York City. The city has had to enact several spending cuts to deal with this. For example, Mayor Adams has canceled the training class of 250 incoming New York City school safety agents, which are desperately needed in our schools. He said then that parents would have to volunteer to keep our schools safe. Our public libraries are no longer open on Sundays because of this crisis. New York City has the country's most inefficient and inflexible public school system in the country. Our schools spend $39,000 per child and have a total budget of almost $40 billion in 2024. This crisis has had a devastating impact on our schools. For example, our principals continue to receive an influx of new students without any advance notice. Our children do not have access to enough ESL teachers. And this is not a problem that can be solved with money. The U.S. the U.S. Department of Education has reported that 26 states now have a shortage of ESL teachers. I'm an elected parent of the Community Education Council for New York City School District 2 in Manhattan and have served as its vice president. In my district, parents have complained about bus delays caused by the constant influx of new students and express safety concerns. For example, when a migrant student who lived in a shelter in our district shot a tourist inside a store in Times Square earlier this year. When you consider this crisis, please consider 3 additional issues. 1, nothing is compared to the devastating impact that is actually being inflicted in migrant children themselves. Our south border is now considered by the UN the deadliest land route for migrants in history, as is being recorded. No child should be in that border. No child should be crossing that border alone. But unfortunately, the number of children who have been crossing that border alone has skyrocketed in the last 4 years. We went from 40,000 children in 2020 to now approximately 150,000 children crossing the border alone. New York State is again taking the burden of all these children that are coming alone. Out of the top 8 counties with the highest number of children that cross the border alone released to sponsors are in New York State. The Department of Homeland Security has published multiple reports saying about the violence, sexual exploitation, trafficking, and abuse of children making this journey. They all end up in our schools, and we don't have the staff or the necessary infrastructure to deal with all the problems that this crisis is creating. Second, I want you to consider the type of migrants that are coming. My family has become a refugee last year from the war in Ukraine. These are not the same type of migrants who are coming, who are economic migrants. The majority of migrants by the UN are women and children. The majority of migrants that arrive in New York City are men of military age. And third, please follow the money. There is now a migrant complex that is receiving $4 billion from New York City taxpayers every single year. There are hundreds of emergency contracts that the mayor has given without following the process. The state is now investigating these contracts. This goes, for example, 6% of the hotel capacity in New York City now is being used to house migrants. There are contracts for health services and for security services. As the report by One City Rising, a nonprofit, has said, these are endless opportunities for grift in our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Igoroff, and well done coming in under the wire. Mr. Chamorro, you are recognized. Welcome to the committee. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Amalia Chamorro, and I'm the Education Policy Director at Unidos US, the nation's largest Hispanic civil rights and advocacy organization. We work in partnership with our affiliate network of nearly 300 community-based organizations across the United States and Puerto Rico. Thank you for the opportunity to share our perspective on today's topic of immigration in public schools. First, educating immigrant children is a smart economic investment. I am a product of this. I came to the US as an immigrant student from Peru at the age of 9. The support that I received from my colleagues, my community, my teachers, and peers when I arrived made all the difference. I was able to navigate a new school system and pursue higher education, both of which allowed me to become a contributing member of society. My personal story aside, it is our moral obligation, consistent with our American values, to want all children to succeed and have a bright future. It is also the nation's legal obligation, as affirmed by the Supreme Court's Plyler versus Doe decision more than 40 years ago. It is settled law that immigrant students cannot be denied a public K-12 education. Writing for the majority opinion, Justice William J. Brennan Jr. concluded that education provides the basic tools by which individuals might lead economically productive lives to the benefit of all of us. This continues to hold true today. As we continue to have these discussions, it is crucial that they be based on facts. Inaccurate and misleading narratives will only work to deepen divisions. Some will try to paint a negative picture of immigrant students. But let's be clear. Immigrant students are a significant asset in our schools. They are known for their resilience, grit, and problem-solving skills. These are all characteristics that are critical for 21st century learning, ensuring the nation's economic advantage. Research shows that their motivation to succeed contributes to positive classroom environments that benefit all students. The global knowledge and cultural and linguistic diversity they bring to our schools enrich our school communities. While the current border situation is unsustainable, and some districts have experienced enrollment increases, the claim that our schools are being overrun by immigrant students is not supported by data. In fact, most students in K-12 public schools are US-born citizens. The most recent census school enrollment data shows that only 3.1% of elementary school students and 2.2% of high school students are foreign-born. Moreover, many foreign-born students are here legally through various programs. These include special programs such as Uniting for Ukraine, the Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans CHNV programs, and the Children of Immigrant on Work Visas. Regardless of birthplace or status, we must provide a quality education to all students. Many will become citizens and make invaluable contributions to our communities and the economy. Congress has the power of the purse and has the authority to make critical funding decisions. It is up to Congress to ensure that schools have the resources they need to support all students, including newcomers. It is up to Congress to address our chronically underfunded public education system. I think we can all agree that education has the power to transform lives. Denying any child the opportunity to learn runs counter to our moral and legal obligations. It also undermines our nation's ability to develop a competitive workforce. As Congress works to enact fair and enforceable immigration solutions, we cannot lose sight of our responsibility to educate all students. The challenges raised in today's hearings are symptoms of a broken immigration system. Until Congress provides a bipartisan, comprehensive solution to this issue, our schools will continue to experience these challenges. The responsibility lies with Congress, not our schools, to fix this. Thank you.
Mr. Chamorro, thank you very much. Ms. Rodriguez, you are recognized. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and honorable members of the subcommittee for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding the impact of the border crisis on public schools in Texas. At a time when our country, schools, children, families are still recovering from the educational and developmental losses resulting from the COVID lockdowns, the problem was compounded by an unprecedented influx of illegal border crossers being released across the country. Since FY21, according to HHS, more than 400,000 unaccompanied alien children, or UACs, have been released to sponsors throughout the U.S. Texas has received the most, with over 58,000 unaccompanied minors released into the state since 2021. In my county of Tarrant, we have absorbed over 2,600 unaccompanied minors. That is roughly the population of 4 elementary schools in my district, or the entire student population of the high school I graduated from. These unparalleled numbers in such a short period of time pose a significant burden to Texas, our schools, the students, and the taxpayers. Cost per student in Texas public schools vary depending upon the source, but estimates range from $10,000 to $18,000 in local and state funding per student, meaning that the cost for a single year of education based off just the number of UACs, not including the minors that have crossed in family units, released into Texas, is between $700 million and $1 billion. These costs are in addition to the over $11 billion and climbing of state taxpayer dollars Texas has been forced to spend taking unprecedented measures in response to the current administration's failures. Here is the sad reality. Nearly half of the existing student body across the U.S. is reportedly performing at below grade level. According to the Texas Constitution and federal law, public schools must educate all school-age children, including those who are illegally present in the country. As a result, taxpayers are questioning how school districts are expected to meet the educational and developmental needs of the already underserved American children population, in addition to the mass influx of migrant minors with complex and costly needs. The grim negative impact of the border crisis on public schools reaches far beyond the quality of education and financial strains. Many public schools and communities have become hotbeds of criminal activity, recruitment, exploitation, and death caused at the hands of emboldened cartel-affiliated gangs preying on our youth. Due to the enormous amount of drugs pouring over our borders, Governor Abbott, the Texas legislature, and school districts have implemented measures to expand Narcan and other resources to combat the fentanyl and opioid crisis. Awareness efforts in placing Narcan in the hands of school administrators is clear evidence that we are sorely losing this battle against the opioid crisis and subsequently failing our country's youth. Narcan is a death preventative, not an opioid crisis preventative, and I encourage congressional members to consider this when appropriating future funds. This is not an issue that throwing money at the problem will solve. It is a national security issue which requires secure borders and enforcement of existing laws. Another concern is the unknown. As I have witnessed, many of the migrants and minors illegally crossing do not have documentation. There are limited ways to vet anyone illegally crossing, which are often ineffective. Considering that many of the unaccompanied minors, according to data, are allegedly older teen males, How many of them have criminal histories, affiliations with gangs, or are actually adults who are potentially infiltrating our communities and public schools? Additionally, schools along the Texas-Mexico border have endured extraordinary security issues resulting from bailouts and cartel-related activity. Several schools have implemented additional measures such as fences and boulders along the school grounds to stop vehicles, criminal smugglers, and those actively evading law enforcement from entering the property. It doesn't have to be this way. Current circumstances are a detriment to all students, teachers in our communities and our country. It is my opinion that when we cannot sufficiently meet the needs of American children's education, the U.S. has no justification for pretending that we can take care of the educational and developmental needs of the world's children crossing illegally over the border. If this administration truly cared about equity and inclusion of underserved communities in the U.S., they would secure the border, stop incentivizing lawlessness, and prioritize the overwhelming needs of American children in our communities. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here today.
Mr. Rodriguez, well done. Thank you very much. Ms. Barkey, you are recognized. Welcome to the committee. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. Dear Chair Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to address you today on this important matter. As a member of the Orange County Board of Education in Southern California and Director of California Local Elected Officials for the California Policy Center, an educational nonprofit, I have seen firsthand the impact of illegal immigration on our K-12 education system and the challenges that it poses to our schools, teachers, and most importantly, students and their families. Today, I'd like to share with you some of the issues that we see every day in California. I am speaking on behalf of the California Policy Center. I am a trustee, but I'm speaking for myself. Our educational systems in Orange County and California are undeniably strained, and the governor and legislature are preparing to cut billions of dollars from the state budget. Illegal immigration only intensifies how many parents feel about our school districts. Districts with high numbers of non-English speaking students often require additional resources to provide English as second language programs. While there is some additional funding for non-English speaking students, the additional funding does not adequately cover the associated costs. It is our citizen students who miss out on a high-quality public education as funds are shifted away from in-classroom learning. In addition, the extra funding received by districts with higher immigrant populations deprives other districts of funding for their most basic programs. Staffing within the districts becomes difficult with illegal immigration. There's a heightened need for more teacher training and professional development. Districts must often hire additional translators and paraprofessionals to help alleviate the pressure on teachers. There are also additional staffing costs to providing testing to get a baseline on students' English language performance, and more funding is necessary to periodically test these students to determine when they are ready to be reclassified. In California, there is also standardized testing to assess progress for English learners and migrant students. The 22-23 statewide proficiency scores reveal more than 75% of migrant students fail to meet English language standards, and more than 85% do not meet grade-level math standards. Obviously, this impacts the pace and manner in which teachers can teach material to their class as a whole. It is more difficult to maintain high educational standards when redirecting considerable resources to address the additional needs arising from illegal immigration. These programs demand a significant portion of our already constrained budgets, which make it difficult to assist every child in reaching their full potential. The need to divert resources towards specialized programs for undocumented students often results in fewer resources available for other students, such as students with special needs, gifted programs, and other extracurricular activities. Many Orange County district schools are experiencing an increase in population that significantly impacts staffing. We often hear about this when we have requests for inter-district transfers on appeal at the Orange County Board of Education. We are especially reminded of this with basic aid district addresses our board. Our board colleagues and I believe that parents know what is best for their children. We almost always grant inter-district transfers to the requesting family. Unfortunately, basic aid districts do not receive additional funding for the additional students, so any child that needs additional services can be very problematic for the district. Overcrowding complicates and destabilizes classroom management. A high student-to-teacher ratio can lead to safety issues when supervision suffers. Students who don't understand our language, customs, or societal norms can be disruptive to learning and create additional challenges for the teachers and other school support staff. When teachers and aides are focused on class interruptions, it takes away from the important instruction they are trying to provide. We often don't know the ages of students since a child may not have their birth certificate. Thus, we may be putting 7-year-olds in kindergarten classes or 20-year-olds in classes with 10th graders. Safety is especially important in states like California that have sanctuary policies which limit the cooperation of state and local law enforcement officers with federal immigration authorities. Since 2021, U.S. Customs has encountered 470,000 unaccompanied minors. In 2023, California had over 11,000 of those unaccompanied minors who must by law be enrolled in public schools by their sponsors. According to the California Department of Education, currently over half of our 944 school districts in California, 540 of them, are providing services to migrant students. The influx of unaccompanied youth, many of whom may have been abandoned or trafficked in our school systems, also creates additional challenges with mental health, housing stability, and school safety issues. In conclusion, it is critical that everyone understands the real-world impact of illegal immigration on our education systems and the need to secure the border. Our first priority must be the safety and education of our students, and no amount of funding can paper over these complex challenges that threaten to overwhelm our schools. Thank you so much for inviting me to share these observations with the committee today. I appreciate your time.
Ms. Barkey, thank you very much, and to all our panelists. Well done on launching our committee. As you know, or if you're tuning in, votes were just called on the House floor, so just a moment, we're going to call a recess. But not to worry, members, your questions, as well as further discussion on the immigration crisis, the impact on K through 12 schools across the nation, will continue. Pursuant to the previous order, the chair declares the subcommittee in recess, subject to the call of the chair for votes on the House floor. We will reconvene following the last vote of the series. The subcommittee stands in recess.